Hey everybody, Ron Phillips back with Heather Marchant. We promised you a little bit of an update. Hey Heather, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Ron?
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. I spent
2.5
two and a
hours?
half hours. Oh my gosh. I sent out to we emailed out um, that you guys should be on John Hyer's presentation last night. If you weren't, um, there is no way in hell I can go through and cover everything that he did. Number one, because I couldn't possibly remember it all. But number two, I am not an attorney. Number three, I don't have any idea. Half of the stuff went over my head. So,
Well, I think everyone just absorbs the stuff that's pertinent to you anyway, right?
yeah,
So,
I mean, John is such a smart guy. One of the reasons why, he's one of the attorneys that I use, which I put in the email, is because he's so smart with this stuff. And so I have some takeaways, some data that I pulled out of there that I think is pertinent to you guys. I know it's pertinent to me. Heather's going to make sure that we try to keep this in some kind of a reasonable order. Some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, you're going to not think is pertinent to you, but I'm going to tell you why it is pertinent to you. So he broke the presentation up into a couple of sections. First one is the personal, second is the business. And I'm going to do the same thing, but all of this is going to pertain to business. So I'm going to make all of it pertain to business because that's who I'm talking to. But if you happen to find yourself out of work, then the first part is going to be for you anyway. There are so many other things that he talked about that could be pertinent to you in your situation that there's no way in hell I could cover all of them. So
did he do a recording? Is there a way to get a
he
recording?
did. My guess is that you could sign up and pay. It was because you had to pay to get on his call. It was $69 early, and then it was $99 later on. It was way, way well worth $99. Good Lord, it was 2.5 hours worth of basically all content. In addition to that, I just like John because he's a no BS guy, and he kind of dislikes and distrusts everything about the government, kind of like me. I liked his jokes. So I also like the fact that he's not scared to tell everybody if you don't like him to go to hell. So I kind of dig John. I kind of dig John. Anyway, enough about him. My disclaimer is that I am not him, and that what I say in no way can you take as coming from him, because this is like, not only is it a step down in quality, but in content I'm going to try to deliver as best I can. But I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. I'm not giving you any advice. But what I am going to tell you today, you can certainly check with your accountants and your attorneys. If you don't have any, shame on you. And we can probably help you out with getting some. So with that said, I forgot to turn on a timer. I'm going to do that so that I don't talk for freaking ever about this stuff. We may have to break this into 2 videos. I don't really know yet. So bear with me for 1 second while I start this thing up. Tell a joke, Heather.
Yeah. So one thing that I'm excited about, this isn't a joke, Ron, so I'm not good at telling jokes.
This didn't start off very funny.
But one thing I'm excited to hear about is the impact this has on our clients as investors, with the stimulus package for tenants being able to have the funds they need to pay rent. Because that's really what that's the only thing that's out of control or out of our control right now, that we don't have a good handle on.
Yeah. And one of the main takeaways from last night for me, other than the business stuff, which is also really good, is that I cannot see any reason whatsoever that our tenants shouldn't be able to pay rent unless you have really expensive rentals, which is not what we deal in.
Yeah,
right? But
true.
if you have really expensive rentals, then you're going to have potentially a challenge, right? But let's just start going back down through these, because I think the first part of this goes to exactly what you were talking about, Heather. And that's the personal stuff. So these unemployment benefits. So first and foremost, I think when people are saying they can't pay rent, it's really important for them to say why they can't pay rent. So if they've been affected by this, meaning that they are unemployed or they're underemployed, like their hours have been cut because now they're working from home or whatever, then this applies. If they're working from home and they're still getting paid, well, then they should still pay rent, right?
Yeah.
It's not, I think there's a miscommunication out there potentially to tenants that you don't have to pay rent no matter what. That's not true. You still owe your rent, and the government has made it, I think the government has made it so that there's literally no excuse for you to not pay rent. Now, maybe in the month of April, you need some help so that you can actually get the benefits. That makes sense, because if you lost your job or you're laid off or whatever, and then you can't get the benefits for 30 days, then yeah, I understand that. And I think most reasonable human beings will work, most landlords will work with people like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you don't owe the rent. And it also, based on what we're going to talk about here, it doesn't mean that you can't pay it either, because these benefits are quite good. I think it's going to take, like I said, 2 to 4 weeks to get the benefits to the people after they apply. This is all run by the states. So this is a little bit of a weird deal. The federal government is providing this benefit, Heather, but it's going to be run by the states.
Interesting.
Which is kind of cool, because that
Yeah.
should shrink the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
You would hope that would shrink
hope
the
so.
bureaucracy.
I mean, you could go by the office personally, you know, if you needed to, type thing, if they're open. So
yeah. So the way this works is if, and it works for people, this is really important. It works for people who have lost their employment and people who have had their hours cut, but aren't unemployed. Okay. Now that one varies by state, because there's state rules that apply here. So there's federal money coming, but there's also state rules that apply. So depending on what state you're in, you need to check this stuff out. This is all really cool stuff, because if you check this stuff out and the management companies can help people figure out how to qualify and get all of the documentation, figure out what the state requires, and help the tenants figure out how to get this, then they're going to be able to collect the money. You're going to be able to get your rent, and, kumbaya, right?
So is there a process they have to follow to be able to go and get this?
Same unemployment process.
Unemployment. Okay.
Right. So you have to prove that you've been affected, that you have to prove that you're out of work, right? That you lost your job. And probably some other things. I don't really pretend to know what each state's going to require for you to get unemployment, but you can get 50% of the state average, is what I understand. That is about $200 a week. Okay. So everybody understands that unemployment is usually not anywhere close to what you make. So $200 a week for most people, that everybody's gonna be like, yeah, that's great. Now I can eat, some gas in the car, but that's not really gonna fix my problem. What fixes the problem is the Fed money, because the Fed money is, in addition to that, it's another $600 a week for up to 4 months.
That's insane.
So that's a total of $800. And if anybody else on here is quick with math, that's 50 weeks times $800. That's a $40,000 a year amount of money.
But they get it for 4 months.
Up to 4 months.
Okay.
And there's some nuance there, like the last so many weeks you have to prove that you're looking for work. The first part of it, you really don't. So there is a potential problem here for people who need workers after this thing kind of all calms down, if it does. And that is that some people are going to be making more money on unemployment than they are making at their job.
That's so true.
A lot of people are going to get a raise for a minute here. So again, I don't think that I can't pay rent because I just got laid off is going to float for very long. Just because we already know, look, your management company, when they qualify these people, everybody turns in what they make. We know what they make. And if they make $40,000 or less,
Yeah.
explain to me why it is you can't pay rent now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And here's another really cool kicker. 1099 people are eligible for this. Self-employed,
Really?
anybody not employed long. Yes. I mean, this is crazy.
Huh.
Um,
Wow.
so Uber drivers, the only people who are not in this are illegal aliens, because they don't have a social security number, right?
Yeah.
So they can't apply. And people who get paid under the table. So hookers and drug dealers are out on this one. Although
be in your rentals. So
right now, if you have hookers and drug dealers in your rentals, they're probably doing okay, because people have way too much time on their hands. So you probably don't have to worry about them paying rent anyway. And we've devolved. That's how it's like. I've been home too long, people. I don't know. So the other thing is, this is retroactive to January 27th. So if you lost your job at the end of January,
benefits.
You're going to get benefits back paid. It's retroactive.
Yeah. So if they miss paying rent in March because they don't have the benefits, Ron, it's retroactive, so they can catch up. They can pay March, they can pay April once they get their benefits, right? Is what you're saying.
Yeah. And then in addition, this is the unemployment thing, right? In addition to that, everybody's all heard about the checks, right? This like free money that they just like passing out free money. That's in addition to this. So
incredible.
Everybody, and I say everybody in quotation marks, because there is a phased out deal, and I'm not going to go through all the math to do the phased out, but the final phase out of not getting a check. If you're single and you make $99,000, then you ain't getting a check. Okay. If you're married filing jointly and you make $198,000, you ain't getting a check. Okay. Everybody else is getting a check of some sort. The checks are $1,200 or $2,400. So single or married, right? This is based on your 2018 or your 2019. So if you haven't filed 2019 and 2019, you're going to be poorer than you were in 2018, you should file that one. Again, check with your accountant. I'm not giving you advice. I shouldn't say should. But it goes off of one of those two. So if you haven't filed 2019, which I won't until like September, because that's just how I roll, then, I would have to use 2018. Okay. And it's important that you have direct deposit information on your IRS forms, because if you do, then that's how they're going to get you the money. So apparently this stuff is coming anyway, apparently. I don't know when it's going to arrive, but people are just going to start getting checks, apparently. And that's in addition to the unemployment thing. So I have not been able to think of a scenario yet where people can't meet their lease obligations. I can't think of one.
Pay late. That's it. I mean,
it may be that they have to pay late, Heather, but I can't think of an excuse right now as to why there should be this massive lease crisis in the country. I can't, unless property managers and owners don't know.
Yeah.
Because then you could get snowed for sure.
Well, I've been reaching out. I've been mentioning this, but I reached out again this morning, and one of our property managers said, yeah, I've had like no phone calls. Like none of the tenants are worried about paying rent, but it is a military town, what this property manager is. And she said, so we have that, but I agree. I think that this problem is going to be a lot smaller than everyone initially thought.
I certainly hope so. And again, today's the 1st. As we're recording this, today is the 1st. So we'll have a better idea tomorrow, I guess, as to what collections are like and what the difference is between normal collections on the 1st versus the 1st through the 5th, when people pay a little bit late and things like that. So we'll have a little bit better idea. And when I have a better idea, we'll jump back on and we'll do another video for you guys and just kind of give you kind of an update of what's going on. So that's pretty cool, huh?
Great. Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, now that took me 10 minutes. There is so that was an hour of the 2.5 hours. And there's so much more. Like there's sick leave, there's family sick leave. It's incredible what is included in all of this. It's nuts.
Well, I mean, it's fascinating to me that it's so simple yet so complicated. I mean, how many pages did you say it was?
Over 800 pages.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, all the details. Yeah,
it's nuts. So anyway, that's the first piece that I want to talk about.
Yeah, business owners.
Business owners underneath 500 employees must pay for sick leave and family leave, but there's a credit to your payroll tax that makes up for that, up to 80 hours worth of sick leave, which is also a lot of money. Now, if you're a business owner and you have been affected by COVID, like so, if you have to take care of somebody at home that has it or you have it, then the sick leave applies. Okay. It applies to business owners and employees. So
yeah, that's cool. I mean, that makes sense because if someone has it and maybe you're an essential service, but you can't go to work because you're quarantined. Yeah.
Yep. And then the business has to pay you sick leave or family leave. Okay. And I don't know all of the ins and outs of that, but you have to prove that you or someone you're caring for has COVID-19. So you have to get tested for it. You have to be able to prove that, right? Because ultimately the government is paying for it because the business has to front it. So for instance, in our company, if I'm going to give COVID-19 to Heather, I don't want it. So let's say Heather has it. And she has to stay home and her job requires her to be at work or whatever. She can't talk. So no longer can she talk to clients because she's coughing and hacking all the time.
Coughing so much.
Yeah. Whatever the case may be. Then I would have to pay her sick leave. And I'm not going to get into all of the details about how the sick leave works, but when I pay her the sick leave, I'm fronting her the sick leave. Then I would just reduce my payroll tax that I submit less whatever I pay out. So I'm getting reimbursed almost immediately, unless it goes over the amount that I'm currently paying in payroll taxes, which it could. In which case, if it does, then I would get the rest of it on the quarterly when I would submit the quarterly, and the government would actually give me the money.
Interesting. Okay.
So the government is paying for this, but companies have to front it. And that can be potentially a problem for a company, but it can also be potentially, you're able to do this for yourself too. So if I get COVID-19, then I am technically an employee, right? And, yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're a company that everyone gave it to each other, right? If you had an employee who gave it to 10 other employees and then you had to cover that sick leave, for 10 people all at the same time, that could get tricky.
Yeah. And expensive,
yeah.
really pretty quickly. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think there's so many opportunities for people to take away a lot of the fear, with understanding the stimulus and how it affects business owners, how it affects the average person, that maybe the person that lost their job. I talked to a client last night in Seattle and I said, I don't know any of my friends who've been directly impacted as far as their job. I mean, working from home, yes. But she said, there's a ton of layoffs in our market. And I think she was really afraid because of that. And I said, well, we have the stimulus and Ron and I are talking about it in the morning. So I think there's a lot of opportunities.
And here we are talking about it.
Ta-da.
Now, let's talk about the business piece of this. Because so that should alleviate anybody's concerns. Now, if you're making like $150,000 a year and you got laid off, that's going to help, but
Yeah.
not a lot. I mean, that's a whole different ball game, right? But
Yeah.
I think for the majority of the tenants, so for the people who who we do business with, this is a big deal because it's going to help out the average Joe people out there who are hardworking and through no fault of their own, they're just now they don't have no money, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help out the wealthy people
Mm-hmm.
who I guess don't have the same problems as other people, which is not true, but according to our illustrious government, they don't. So, okay, I'm not going to go off on I'm not going to go on a tangent here. So the business handouts, the one a lot of people have heard about is this SBA 7A loan, which is a loan. So if you have a business, you really need to pay attention to this. This is really big. This is a loan to retain workers, pay utilities, pay rent, or mortgage interest. Okay, so there's no fee to apply for this. It's going to be delivered by local by banks, not necessarily local. Like Chase and US Bank have already got this program kind of starting to roll out already. But there's banks. I think there's like 1,800 of them or something, 2,000 banks that are going to be involved in this. Payroll up to $100,000. So if you're paying yourself $240,000, then you can only first 100,000 is all it applies to. But it also applies to independent contractors up to $100,000. Okay, because the whole point of this is to keep people working.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a loan. The coverage dates are between 2/15 and 6/30. Okay. Only works for businesses with less than 500 employees, and you had to have payroll last year. So if you're a brand new business this year, this really isn't going to help you all that much. Okay. But it's non-recourse and there's no collateral.
Wow.
So for everybody who doesn't know what non-recourse is, that means there's no personal guarantee. Okay. And there's no collateral. So you don't have to collateralize your house or anything else to get this loan, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. Now, so what helps you qualify for it? You just give your information as long as you've been in business.
You have to have. So this is a little strange because, again, the government is using private sector, the banks, to push this money out because and it probably is. No, probably. This will be way easier to get the money to the business owners. They're trying to implement this with speed so that we can get everybody back to work or keep people working, right? But so the banks have their own rules. So the rules that I learned last night, those apply to what the federal law says. But the banks are the ones who are going to implement this, and they probably are going to have their own rules.
Okay.
We don't know exactly what all of those are going to be yet, but they're supposed to make this super easy. In addition to that, the banks are going to make money. They're going to get a fee for these, and they're going to get the interest. So the banks, again, in every single one of these packages that will ever be for the end of time, the banks are always going to make out like fat cats. So what is
the interest rate on it?
It's like 3.75, so it's not crazy, but they get a pretty sizable fee. I want to say that John said it was like 5%.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I mean, this is not chump change for the banks either. Yeah. So they should be motivated to make these loans. These are also all backed; they're government-backed loans. So I can't think of a reason why they wouldn't want to get this money
Seems
out
like
either.
A no-brainer.
Yeah. In addition to that, these are potentially forgivable and not cancellation of debt income.
What does that mean?
So this isn't going to show up as income.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Because if it's forgivable, that should be income.
Yeah.
but this is not a CO day in income. So I mean, just run back through this really quick. This is literally a loan to pay your workers, your utilities, your rent, or your mortgage interest for 2.5 months. That if you use it for this is forgivable and then won't be income.
Wow. Yeah, there's like no reason not to.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts. Now, you do have to show a couple of things. So there's some rules to this. You also don't have to show that you can't get debt elsewhere, right? So that's another big thing. John's recommendation, which I thought was a really smart one, because you have to prove that you've used this money for those things, because if you don't prove that, then it's just a loan and you have to pay it back. It's not forgivable. Okay. It's really important. So he suggested that when this money comes in, it goes into a separate bank account and you pay those expenses out of that account so that you can clearly show that the expenses got paid out of that money. Right.
Yeah.
Super simple. I thought that was really, really smart thing to do, because you really do have to be able to do this. So if you're a small business, you don't have a CPA, you don't have a bookkeeper, and you're doing this yourself, then that's even more important, I think, because you've got to be able to prove this. Okay. Yeah. Rental companies can use this to pay contractors. I think it's really important. One of the things that John said last night that I think is really, really important. There's going to be people who are going to try to take advantage of this. Mm-hmm. He warned against that. I'm gonna double warn against that. If you try to take advantage of this, you're a douchebag. Okay, it's already incredibly good. There's no reason to take advantage of it. But B, this is a federal loan, in which case, if you do anything that's untoward, it's called fraud.
Yeah.
People go to prison.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah. So just don't do anything stupid. One of the things he mentioned last night is he thought some people might try to pay their contractors with it, and pay $100,000 to several different contractors and get a $2 million house built. Now, could you technically do that? I guess you could, but my guess is you're going to get a smackdown the size that you do not want on the back end of this. So just use it for what it's intended to be used for. That's the point, right? This is something that is intended to help retain workers and help us be able to maintain that without falling off a cliff as business owners. Yeah. And some of us, it's important that we have that, right? So this does work for any company that has payroll. So if you own an apartment complex and you have payroll, you have people on staff, then you can do this, right? You can use this and apply for it for your LLC for your company, right? Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable deal. So if you have a company, you should be looking into this. Anyway. Yeah. Then there's awesome, let me make sure I didn't. So many notes. It's
like, but wait, there's more. Is it?
Oh, there possible? Is actually. I mean, there's way more. I'm not going to spend very much time on this. There's another one called the EIDL, EIDL loan. That one's up to $2 million at a 3.75 rate, up to a 30-year term. That one's applied directly through the SBA. So if you've heard about the SBA site being shut down for a while, that was because so many people were applying for it. I think a lot of them thought they were applying for the one I just talked about, which is actually going to be delivered through banks. This one is not for that. It is still a disaster loan, and it's made. You have to actually put in your income and your expenses and things like that. I applied for it last night. You can only use one of these. So you can't get the SBA 7A loan, emergency loan, and then also get the EIDL loan in the same company. You can't do that.
Okay.
Okay. So you could go apply. You also don't have to take them. So you could be approved for them, but you can't take them. In addition to that, John said something else that was interesting. There's pieces on there when you take the loan that says that you don't have another application out there. He said you need to make sure that you read the paperwork really carefully when you are doing it and make sure you answer them correctly. Because if you have another application out, you need to cancel the application so that you're not committing fraud on your. So don't go to apply to a million banks, in other words, for the SBA 7A loan.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And hopefully I got that right. Anyway,
well, it makes sense.
If you didn't pay your damn $100 and show up last night, then you just get this. You get the leftovers. That's what you get. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it.
I prefer this because it's the Reader's Digest version that
You didn't have to spend 2.5 hours. Well, you're not getting all of it, but you're getting some of the good stuff. And then just check with people who are smarter than me. So.
Yeah, I think this is great news. Great news for business owners, great news for landlords, property managers. We'll have to share this with our property managers too. So that's awesome.
Are you ready for the icing on the cake, Heather?
What? There's more? I thought we were wrapping up. What?
No, icing on the cake. This is really, really cool too. Now, again, you need to check with your people on this, okay? And by your people, I don't mean when I'm going to talk about 401ks. I don't necessarily mean your people at your work, because they're going to probably be less inclined to tell you the truth about this. But you can actually now you can take a loan from your qualified retirement plan of up to $100,000 or 100%, whichever's less, and make no payments in the first year and have 5 years to get the money back in your account, which they may extend to 6 years, which is pretty cool.
So you can take out money from your current employer 401k. Say I have a current employer that has 10 grand in it. I could just take it out and not pay any penalties taking it out. Yes?
Well, this is what I'm talking about now is a loan. So there wouldn't be any penalties because you're going to be paying the loan back.
Okay.
What you're talking about is a withdrawal.
Okay.
And you can also do that. So you can withdraw money up to $100,000, same rules, with no early withdrawal penalty, but you have to pay the taxes on it. Okay. Now, but then there's a workaround on the taxes. Okay. So you can take the money now, but if you can put the money back within 3 years into another qualified plan or the same qualified plan, then you don't have to pay taxes on it.
Oh, okay. That's the one I was thinking of then. So I could take the 401k for like my husband's 401k, take it out. I could roll it over into a self-directed account because it's a qualified retirement plan.
Yeah, it's my understanding you don't even have to roll it. It's my understanding you can take it out and then stick it into an IRA.
Okay.
And that there would be no taxes.
Love that. Okay.
Also, apparently, they've brought back this whole, remember they used to have this, you could take money, how was it? You could take money out and then you could pay you could convert it to a Roth and then you could pay the taxes over 2 years. So they've brought that back. You can, if you take the money out, you're not going to get a withdrawal penalty and you can pay the taxes over the next 2 years.
Cool. That's
so for a lot of people who invest in real estate, sometimes their money's tied up in a 401k. They have significant money tied up in a 401k and they can't use it to invest in real estate, and they can't roll it over into an IRA where they could use it to invest in real estate. It is my understanding from what I heard last night that this is potentially a loophole to make that happen, where you can actually take money out of your 401k that you normally wouldn't have been able to get out, up to $100,000. And then you can put it into, within 3 years, you can put it into an IRA or some other account, qualified account, and you have no taxes due, thus allowing you to invest inside of an IRA in real estate, which is pretty dang cool. Dang cool.
And the cool part about it that I hear too is when you take it out and invest it into real estate, then you could also take your depreciation and mitigate your tax risk from having taken that money out, and if you never put it back in, that you can, use some depreciation, some cost segregation to mitigate or totally eliminate the tax risk. Yes?
Yeah. Yes, I believe so. Again,
Yeah, I know.
check with your CPA. The other thing that I'm going to ask my CPA is, can you take the money out? It seems to me that if you can take it out and you have 3 years to put it back, that you could take it out, that you could invest it in something like a short-term loan making 12%. You could keep the 12% and then put the money back into your IRA, thus allowing you to personally benefit from money that should be in a retirement account. Now, that maybe everybody needs to understand that what I said first applies. I'm going to check with my CPA and make sure you can actually do that. But it seems like, based on the way the law is written, that you could do that. So long as you don't lose the money in whatever investment you put it in, and then you can't put it back, in which case you're going to have to pay the taxes on it, right?
Got it.
But if you put it into a solid investment that is shorter term and you can get your money back, yeah, it seems like that is a real possibility. So overall, Heather, some really pretty cool stuff in this new legislation that they passed, or whatever.
What I hear in that is we got to do some more syndications, Ron. We got to get some started up for our clients.
Yeah, and I've got a couple that are coming up, I think. So we'll have some for sure. But this is really good. So I think, Heather, I've been doing these videos to help try to calm the populace. I mean, if you're in New York or Seattle or LA, yeah, God bless you. I feel sorry. I feel sorry that those populations are getting hit so hard. It's probably hard to stay calm in those areas.
Yeah, I agree.
The rest of the country, turn the news off a little bit. And because those guys are just lying sacks of crap. I can't even tell you, like, they just got caught. I just saw a video today where they got caught saying that the hospital they were showing was from New York, and it was actually from Italy.
Really?
Now, I don't know why you need to do that. The only reason why a news organization would do that, because they had to know that they inserted video from another country.
Wow.
They had to know. The only reason you would do that is to be salacious.
Yeah.
That's the only reason you do that. And so that's the reason I'm telling people to turn the freaking news off, because they're a bunch of lying sacks right now, and they're not helping anything.
Yeah, so, I agree.
Turn it off and calm down. Think about this thing a little bit more logically. It is a big deal. Again, I quarantined myself when I came back from my conference a couple of weeks ago. It is a big deal to me. I have high-risk people in my house, but that doesn't mean that we have to completely lose our minds either, which I also don't think is really very, very good. This little program that we talked about here, actually really ginormous programs, like $4 trillion. This should stem the tide a little bit. It should make it so that people can pay, that everything will be okay, and that we'll be able to get through this. And what we need to pray for now is that this thing ends sooner rather than later, right? That this thing doesn't drag out, and that we can get this thing kind of tamped down. So with that, we'll be done for today, but we'll come back and tell you how rent collections are doing. I'll talk to all the property managers that I know today, and see what everybody's saying. See if there's any any kind of tricks or tips that we can give you guys to help you out with collecting your rents, and also being compassionate towards the people who are in our homes. So thanks, guys. Hope this was helpful.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks, Ron.
All right, see you.